All right, so talked about a lot of different things. Talked about deliberate practice, working with a teacher, talked about using tools like sketches and so forth. But, how do you find time in the day? Let's talk a little bit about the practical aspect of being creative and creating what you want to achieve. And so I'll talk a little bit about to-do lists and a couple of different ways to think about how to do to-do lists. So without further ado, just couldn't help myself. So seriously, to-do lists are actually very powerful because they really can help you focus and figure out what you need to be able to do. It's just not going to stop with this to-do thing, but they are powerful. And there's a couple of different ways to look at them. There's two ways that I'm going to show you to-dos today. They don't stop coming. Okay, the first way to accomplish to-dos or to leverage to-dos is to write all the different things you have to get done, all the different tasks, and then go through each task and identify how long each task would take. And so you don't just want to know what you have to be able to do, you want to be able to give yourself a sense of how long something's going to take. And some things will take weeks, some will take hours, some will take days, and you want to be able to identify, how many things you have. And then the bigger ones you want to try to break down. Can you make those into smaller tasks and smaller to-dos? So you can identify things that only take an hour or two, or even 15 minutes. Can you break them down into ways that you can be able to manage those on a daily basis, as opposed to just having this like big giant goals. You want to be able to break those down so that they're very achievable and you can fit them into a schedule that works for you. By the way, I got this method from Dave Ellis, who wrote the book Becoming a Master Student. I got this book a long time ago. Anyway, the next step, you've got your tasks, you've got them broken down into sizable chunks. You know how long each one's going to take. The next step is to prioritize. And there's a few different methods you can use. One of the methods is called the ABC method, and this is by somebody named Alan Lakin. And the idea here is that you want to identify your top priorities. What are the most important things that need to get done? And all of those tasks that are top priority, label those A's. And those that are like the least important or least urgent, you make those C's. And then there's some that are in between. Those are the B's. Pretty straightforward. You can also use 1, 2, 3, or you could use the 80-20 rule, where the idea is that you can get, if you focus on the most important 20%, that'll get 80% of how far you want to get done. So different methods to prioritize. Before I go too much further, I want to talk about where do you put these tasks. There's a lot of different places. The interesting thing I thought about Dave Ellis's method was he recommended actually using note cards, like 3x5 note cards. And you could write the task, you could write the time, and you could write the prioritization all on this note card. And then the cool thing about the note cards is that you can, just have them around as a set, and whenever you need to, you can just find an A or find something that's shorter or longer depending on what your situation is. But they're not, stuck. They can, you can move them around. You can shuffle them. You can even change an A to a B or a C to an A depending on circumstances. And they really let you be able to be more flexible, I think, with these cards. Plus, you can, when you finish one, you can rip it up, and now you've feel a sense of accomplishment. So I thought that was kind of a neat method. And then, of course, there's day runners and notepads and all kinds of other things, as well as apps that can simulate these things. I use Trello for the Kanban. It essentially emulates a Kanban right on my phone. So it's really easy to kind of keep track of those. But there's tons of other ones. You have to find the one that works for you. Some will let you roll everything up into a project and break everything out by task. You could tag it with colors so you can keep track of which tasks relate to which projects. Lots of different things, and really have to find the one that works for you. There's lots of different methods beyond the index cards. One of my favorite is Kanban, and this actually could work with the index cards depending on if you have a bulletin board or something like that. But basically, Kanban is, I think, it's Japanese for signboard or billboard, or at least the closest equivalent for us. But the idea is that you are able to have a board where you're able to put the different tasks, and you have different columns for the status of a particular task. So you might have a column of to-dos, and you might have a column of doing, the things you're actually actively working on, and then a column of done. And this has been something that was created for lean manufacturing back in the day, but it really works for, it's just a really great way of scheduling, anything you need to get done without a particular time, constraint. So it's just what do you need to get done? What are you doing? And it's great for communication, both to others as well as obviously for yourself. So a really, really neat method. So now you've got your tasks and you've got a system. Now the idea is just to cross them off. And there's a couple of different ways you can, prioritize. You can think about try to focus only on doing the A's as much as possible, and then do the C's whenever you have a spare time, and eventually the B's become A's. You don't want to over-index on C's and get comfortable, and like the next thing you know, you're not getting anything real accomplished. But if there's something that you can in your spare time do, that's great. The other thought is to be able to possibly recognize by time, are there things that you can do when you're waiting for something? Because a lot of us tend to be waiting for something, right? We're waiting for our car, we're waiting for a doctor's appointment, we're waiting for our friend to show up to a dinner date or whatever. So it's like, can we have a list of to-dos that we can accomplish while we're waiting someplace? So maybe have a special stash for those. Another method to get things done that you want to accomplish is what I call the creative procrastination method. And I made this up a while ago. And honestly, I can't recommend it because it sort of supports procrastination. And I've worked my way towards getting around that. But at the same time, I got a lot of things done using this method. I mean, a lot of things done. And basically, it's just when you have to do something like creative, the next thing you know, you're cleaning your house. Or the next time you need to clean your house, the next thing you know, you're doing something creative. It's basically leveraging the resistance to do something by doing something else that's on your list. That's really it. That's why I call it creative procrastination, because you get to procrastinate, which somehow works for us. We somehow have a desire to procrastinate, but it also gets something done. And the list eventually just works itself out and gets done. So I can't not recommend it. And finally, for this first method of to-dos, evaluate. You want to make sure that you check in on yourself every now and again, maybe once a week, maybe once a month, and see how your tasks are doing. Do some of the A's need to become B's or C's, or do some of the C's need to become A's? Were there reasons why you did X, Y, and Z and not the other? Kind of try and evaluate and see. But you want to do this only every now and again, like every week, so you can have some time to reflect and see what happened. But you also do want to do it often enough so that you're not leading yourself astray for too long. So basically just set aside some time, maybe an hour once a week, to evaluate and see how you're doing with your to-dos. Because again, I mentioned before, but that whole idea of tracking and seeing where you're at, or having somebody else help you do that, creates that accountability. And accountability is one of the best ways to break through any kind of procrastination or any kind of delays. That was one method of leveraging to-dos and in order to accomplish tasks. The other method is kind of similar, but a little bit different. It's really focusing on prioritization, recognizing that a list can get a little bit overwhelming and a little distracting, a little daunting. So instead of doing that, it's better to maybe pick the 3 things you want to do tomorrow and have that list. Just what are the 3 things I want to accomplish, or in the morning, what are the 3 things I want to accomplish today? And just have those 3 things, the most important things. And if you get those things done, everything else is gravy. And it depends on your world and depends on your lifestyle, but it can seem like, well, that's not really realistic, but it's amazing if you get into a cadence with it. You start to make things actually get done. You start to realize, oh no, this is valuable. This has been helping me focus and getting these things done. Otherwise, they just become procrastinated and they never get done at all. So it's better than that. So what are those 3 things? I tend to just write the most important 3 things I want to get done. And if I get those done, yay. And they're the things I focus on first thing in the morning as much as possible before I get distracted by emails or anything else. But there's other ways that I've seen that are kind of cool. One is, the one thing. There's a book called The One Thing, based on the movie City Slickers way back when. But the idea is, what one thing can you do first that's going to make everything else that you need to get done easier? So kind of smoothing the path for the rest of the tasks that you need to get done, or things that can actually eliminate other tasks entirely. So you want to be strategic with your one thing, and that could be in any category. It could be relationship, it can be work, it can be family, it can be spiritual, it can be whatever, any of those things. But then what is the one thing for that category that you want to accomplish? So then in addition to that one thing, maybe do one more thing. And then the third thing is more like something you would do at the end of the day that would help you set yourself up for success for tomorrow directly. So maybe throughout the day, you've done other things besides those 2 most important things, but give yourself a done list. Write down what you've actually done and accomplished and make yourself feel good. Another thing you can do is make sure you get enough sleep. Another thing you can do is write out, how you're going to accomplish the next tasks, kind of strategically think about how you're going to accomplish the next tasks so you set yourself up for success. Or schedule the hardest thing you need to do early on so you can make sure that you have enough energy to be able to do it. Or kind of different is set up something that's really easy to do so the first thing you do, you accomplish in the morning. So you can set yourself up for success in the next day by having that third to-do be focused on that.